السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على أنبيائه المرسلين ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب زدنا علما، رب زدنا علما، رب زدنا علما نافعا. آمين. I welcome everyone to Islamic Worldview, and in today's session our discussion will revolve around two topics: the purpose of understanding Islamic worldview and breaking down the title and the terminology, which is Islamic and worldview. These are the two mahawir of our discussion in today's session. But before we do that, I want to share something very important with you. It is a quote from a great Imam of the 5th century after Hijrah, Al-Imam al-Mawardi, rahimahullah. Al-Imam al-Mawardi is one of the best political minds of the Ummah, and he served in the late Abbasid Khilafah as Chief Justice. So he is one of the best legal and political minds. And we know his book, Ahkam al-Sultaniyah, is still one of the best texts in understanding Islamic political theory. He has a beautiful quote in his book, Deen wa Dunya, which is a work about understanding adab of the religion and dunya. In that book, Imam al-Mawardi, rahimahullah, has discussed or framed the overall structure of our religion in the perspective of adab. It is a book of Arabic literature at the same time, Adabuddini wa Dunya. In explaining the political or the importance of the political authority for every religion which claims to be a civilization or a system, Imam al-Mawardi, rahimahullah, says, فَلَيْسَ دِينٌ زَالَ سُلْطَانُهُ إِلَّا بُدِّلَتْ أَحْكَامُهُ. There is no religion which loses its political authority. Sultan. Sultan is political authority. And other forms of authorities, power, political authority, the ideological authority. But here Imam al-Mawardi is referring to the political authority, to be precise. He says, فَلَيْسَ دِينٌ, any religion, any civilization, any system, زَالَ سُلْطَانُهُ, which loses its political authority, sultan, إِلَّا بُدِّلَتْ أَحْكَامُهُ, except that something unusual happens with that religion. And he points to 4 changes which happen with that system. Number 1 is buddilat ahkamuhu. Its ahkam are changed. Its system, law, is changed to make it more compatible with a different worldview, or the worldview which becomes dominant after this religion or system loses its dominance. Number 2, وَطُمِسَتْ أَعْلَامُهُ. Its symbols are destroyed. The main symbols of Deen, which make it, which is the manifestation of that religion or we can say the foundations of that religion or system are destroyed. وَكَانَ لِكُلِّ زَعِيمٍ فِيهِ بِدْعَةٍ. And for every za'im, for every leader of that system, because this religion or system, it remains, but it becomes weak, and it has leadership. And the leadership is shrinked. So the leadership, whatever it is, for every leader in it is a bid'ah, innovation. Its leadership, they start innovating in that religion, bringing new principles, new foundations, because the original foundations are destroyed. So they replace it with new foundations and principles, making it compatible with the times. Well, bid'ah here does not mean, it does not carry the meaning which we usually understand and use. Bid'ah has been used in a broader meaning in the sentence. وَلِكُلِّ عَصْرٍ فِيهِ وَهَايَةُ أَثَرٍ. And in every age, or with the passing of every age, it becomes weaker. This religion, this system, this civilization, وَهَايَةُ أَثَرٍ, its impact, its influence on the reality in the world becomes weaker. This is a very deep statement of one of the best political Muslim thinkers and also legal minds, who did not only contribute as a theorizer, but he participated in the system. And he participated in one of the best Muslim rules, the Abbasid Khilafah, which is known for the culmination of Muslim knowledge and the codification of it. Okay, so we can understand the great political acumen of Imam al-Mawardi by this statement. It carries deep philosophical, political connotations. We will not go into that. The point here is that any civilization which thrusts itself on the reality is not followed, or it does not become dominant only because of its ideology or the profundity of its concepts, like the Western civilization in our times. It's not dominant only because the concepts it carries, the systems it promotes are fine and profound. One of the main catalysts or the reasons of dominance is political authority. When a system loses it, even the finest minds are wasted. The great ideologies, they don't make any sense, like we see today in our times with Islam and the Islamic civilization. So Islamic thought is eventually, when it doesn't have any political authority, the concepts you learn, the worldview, the law, theories, you don't have the waqi', you don't have the reality to implement these theories and concepts in it. The waqi' is not yours. So you're confined to a reductionist methodology in which you reduce Islam to motivational methodology or intellectual dominance. By debates, by discussions, you show that even if we have lost on the political front, we're still best because we're intellectually best. This is good. This should be preserved, but this shows that you have lost the actual dominance. This is what is happening. It's very important to understand our reality. The same thing has been explained by another great Muslim thinker and philosopher, Allama Iqbal, the great Muslim philosopher and thinker of the East. He is known as poet of the East. And the greatness in Allama Iqbal is also because he engaged with the Western civilization. He understood Western civilization deeply when it was at the pinnacle of its dominance. So let me quote one of his couplets in Urdu, and I will translate it. The same idea. Allama Iqbal says in Hindi Islam, है जिंदा फ़क़त वहदत अफ़कार से मिल्लत. The millah, the ummah, is living, thriving, or established only because of the unity in thought. Unity in thought. Unity, oneness in worldview, aqidah, basic foundations. वहदत की हिफाजत, वहदत हो फना जिससे वो इल्हाम भी इल्हाद. If this unity in thought is debased, erased, even ilham will become ilhad. The best minds will be wasted. The best theories will not make any sense because you don't have the unity in thought. And the most important point here is preserving that unity by political authority. He says, now the first point is wahdat afkar, the unity in thought, worldview. The second point, he says, वहदत की हिफाजत नहीं बेक़ुव्वत बाजू. वहदत की हिफाजत नहीं बेक़ुव्वत बाजू. Without political power, without power, strength, it is impossible to protect and safeguard this unity of thought. आती नहीं कुछ काम यहाँ अक्ल खुदादाद. In this area of political dominance power, अक्ल खुदादाद, God-gifted intellect, best ideas, ideologies, best minds will never benefit here. They don't help here. So if you don't have the political dominance, power, wahdat afkar, the unity of thought, you cannot preserve it, protect it. And in fact, everything will go waste. This is exactly the same thing which Imam al-Mawardi proclaimed in this beautiful quote. So let's move. The purpose of this point here is to understand that whatever we see around us, the reality, the Western dominance, it is not only because the West is more developed intellectually than us. The West is more advanced intellectually than us. We are not negating that the West also has good ideas and things we can benefit from, because the Western Renaissance, in its roots, in its foundation, has benefited from the Islamic civilization as well. And inshallah, we will come to that. We can benefit. But the point is, everything which we see around us is not only because it is more refined than Islamic ideology. Political power, authority, or all types of authorities are important in establishing the ideologies. So some ideologies and systems which we see around us, philosophies, are thrusted upon us. They are weak ideologies, corrupt ideologies, and they are thrusted upon us by political power. They have the power. And it eventually leads to hardship and corruption of human beings. Good tree bears good fruit, and an evil tree bears evil fruit. And we see that eventually, in the beginning, it seems good, but eventually we see how corrupt it is when we face the difficulty and the evil. So this is the point here. Now coming to our topic, we said in today's session, we will focus on understanding the purpose and breaking down the terminology. Let's go to the purpose first. What is the purpose of studying worldview? Maqsid. What is the maqsid? What is the purpose? We can explain this purpose in 2 points. We have a general purpose, am, and a specific purpose, which is more focused, khas. Okay. What is the general purpose? Why should we be studying Islamic worldview? It may look look like an academic venture, which is dry. And those who are studying with me and they have taken the previous courses in Darul Ilm, they know that we are focusing on education, but our primary goal is da'wah and revival of the ummah intellectually. So we don't want to make it an academic exercise in which we acquire information and we don't apply it. This is not the purpose. But there are different areas in which we have to work. My focus personally is education, particularly in connecting with the turath, connecting with our legacy. So the success of mankind depends on safeguarding and protecting this ummah. Because if you reflect on the maqasid of this ummah in the Quran, you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned one important quality of this ummah, which is it is a witness over mankind. If this ummah is corrupted and wasted, whole mankind will be wasted. So we are not looking in this project of Darul Ilm and the courses we will do, inshallah, we are not focusing on how to present Islam to non-Muslims or to how to make it compatible with the West or how to prove ourselves intellectually better. This is not our goal. It has its own experts, or the discussion, it has a different setting. Our goal is how to reform the ummah, islah of the ummah. Because this ummah is the lost ummah. And by ummah, I mean the ummatul istijaba. Because whole, even non-Muslims are included in the ummah. Ummatul istijaba is the ummah which has accepted Islam, which believes in Allah and His Messenger. The success of mankind depends on this ummah. If we are able to reform the ummah, if this ummah takes the leadership position again in the world, it would be khair for all mankind. Or the khair for mankind depends on this project of ummah taking the leadership position. So our goal is islah, reforming the ummah by connecting with the turath, presenting what we have, alhamdulillah, the great wahi in the form of Quran and Sunnah, and the Islamic ulum which were extracted and based on the wahi, presenting it in a more engaging way to the ummah, so that at least intellectually we start thinking. And I like education because education is, what is the best word for education in Arabic? Tarbiyah. Tarbiyah. And the connotation of tarbiyah, the meaning of tarbiyah contains gradualism. Rabba yurabbi. And from that we have rabbaniyin, rabbaniyun. If you read in the Quran, this word rabbaniyun, which is one of the qualities of believers who educate. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, he explains in the tafsir of this word, he says Rabbani is a teacher who teaches small knowledge before big knowledge. He fixes the foundations first. Yurabbi bisighar al-ilmi qabla kibarihi. So this quality of Rabbaniyah, education, tarbiyah, is based on reforming the intellect. So education is a process. It contains gradualism. So don't expect, that's why I like education, as I said, because it is an engagement. The thoughts we are discussing or the concepts we will engage with, some of them may not be refined, but at least we start thinking on our problems, on the mistakes we committed intellectually. And we can reach a point where we turn them into theories and foundations for the revival of the ummah. Okay, so this here, don't expect that I will give you concepts which are definitive and you have to apply them directly in your life. Some of these themes we are discussing are engagements, so that we start thinking. As Allama Iqbal said, wahdati afkar. So the political dominance or dominance of the ummah depends on unity of thought. And if we don't have the unity of thought, at least we can never imagine of political dominance. Even if we get dominance, what will we implement if we don't have the thought process? We don't have the base and the foundation. So this is very important. Let's talk about the first point for today's session, which is purpose. What is the purpose? The general purpose of understanding this theme of worldview can be summarized in some points. Number one is, as I said, intellectual awakening of the Ummah. Intellectual awakening of the Ummah. How? By faham, by fostering understanding. So understand that these sessions, they are not motivational lectures where you sit back with your popcorn and Coke and enjoy. I want, for those at least who have the niyyah of remaining in these sessions till end, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us steadfastness, I want you to engage with the words, the terms, the sentences, the concepts we will discuss. Okay. I'm also trying my best to understand, and I hope that you will also engage, listen carefully, take notes, and inshallah, we will also share these notes later on. I will save it as PDF. We can share in the group, inshallah. So I want, because we will not discuss the basic ideas here. Our address is to the educated minds of the Ummah, people who want to think, who want to lift themselves intellectually and contribute according to their capabilities. Okay, so intellectual awakening, how? By faham, by fostering understanding. Faham of what? Faham of asl and asr. Faham of asl and asr. Asl is the foundation, the turath, the wahi, revelation which we have in the form of Quran and Sunnah, and the ulum which are based on this, which are based on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asl, understanding it, reforming our understanding of asl. And asr is are the current times, understanding the waqi', the reality around us. So in asl, we have the, we can say in asl, we have al-ulum al-shar'iyyah, the Sharia sciences, and in asr, we have the social sciences, Western social sciences. It's very important to combine the understanding of Shari'i ulum, which are based on the book of Allah, produced by the great minds of the Ummah, which unfortunately has been reduced. Reductionism is prevalent, reductionism and naivety, simplistic understanding in everything in the Ummah. And this is one of the reasons for the crisis, intellectual crisis we are facing. So we have to raise ourselves, understand the Sharia ulum in a more comprehensive manner, particularly in understanding the higher principles of the ulum. And this is what we will engage in. Here in this course, we are not teaching the Sharia ulum, but we can say that this course will be about summarizing the higher principles of all ulum. Inshallah, if you stick to the end, you will understand the higher principles of all ulum, or we can say the overall structure of this religion. And by doing that, we will also appreciate the hard work of the great minds of the Ummah in all fields of understanding. Western social sciences, inshallah, we will use them in comparison and in fostering our understanding of the Islamic worldview, because it is the waqi' we are living in. The waqi', the reality, the world we are living in is based on Western civilization is dominant, and Western social sciences, Western thought, Western philosophies are involved. So fahm of these two important areas, and this will lead to intellectual awakening bi'idhnillah. Now coming to the specific, khas. What is the specific maqsad of studying Islamic worldview? We can erase here because this is the only maqsad. Intellectual awakening. In specific, we can say that understanding worldview will be based on presenting khulasa of Islamic ulum. The crux or the summary of all Islamic ulum, the higher principles. Number two, safe guarding the ummah intellectually. We see the crisis, particularly in the youth, disconnected from Islam. Atheism is prevalent. The intellectual ideas are influencing. For this reason, we have a particular class of Muslim scholars and intellectuals who are catering to this need. They are working in this field. So it is real, not only in the West, but also in the East. Even in conservative societies, we have to safeguard the ummah. And safeguarding does not only mean giving a khutbah. We have to connect with the next generation. So we can do that by engaging in intellectual awakening, as I said, and fostering the understanding in a better way. Our manhaj, what will be our method in engaging with this topic? If you have seen the poster, when we mentioned the components of worldview generally, ontology, epistemology, teleology, and so on and so forth. Basically, our manhaj or our method will not focus on teaching these ulum. And these are different subjects. Every subject needs a lifetime to master. Western social sciences. And some of these are connected with philosophy also. So our purpose is not to teach these ulum, but to understand the Islamic perspective of these ulum. We could have mentioned the Arabic terminology, which is better in my opinion. The Arabic words and the terminology, which connote the same meaning, is better, more deep, profound. And we will see it once we go into the discussion further. But we did not mention that in order to connect better with our youth, because these are the terms which are prevalent in our times. Okay, so la mushahata fil istilah, as they say, there is no debate about the istilah, the terminology. When you're focusing on the meaning, terms don't matter. Okay, so don't think that we will be teaching these ulum, and it's impossible. And I personally, I'm not an expert of Western philosophy and Western thought. We have to study it, read it as Muslim scholars. We have to engage in it in order to understand better, at least the basics. So we will not engage in teaching these ulum. We will only try to understand the Islamic perspective in order to appreciate our intellectual legacy, in order to cherish the khair we have. Okay, so comparative methodology is sometimes intellectually awakening, comparing. as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also compared in the Quran, comparative analysis. Okay, this is a manhaj, this is a methodology. So we will mention Western ideas and concepts in order to compare, but we will not go deep into that because this is out of the scope. Okay, so in order to appreciate the khair we have to understand the jahiliyyah as well. We have to understand ignorance. And we all know the famous saying of Umar radiallahu anh, those who don't understand jahiliyyah, they will never be able to appreciate Islam as well. So this rukam, this piled up jahiliyyah in our times, ideas, philosophies, which are influencing even a layman without him realizing it. We have to understand it. And then after that, when we engage in understanding our own legacy, we will be able to appreciate more and understand. Our problem is we lack faham in both, in asl and asr. We don't understand the Western social sciences and the world we are living in deeply, and we lack faham of our own asl, or we have at least reduced it. We have a reductionist understanding. This is our problem. So this is the maqsid and purpose. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us in achieving this maqsid. And here when we said in ulum al-shar'iyyah, we will engage with the higher principles, with kulliyat, because you may not be interested in becoming a scholar. Everyone should not become a scholar, but every Muslim should have a basic understanding, foundational understanding of Islam. And in our times, some ulum which were fardu kifaya, according to the opinion of the scholars in the earlier times of Islam, some aspects of those ulum have become fardu ayn. So for example, usul al-fiqh, understanding law, understanding fiqh, this was fardu kifaya for only scholars in the previous times. But because of exposure to the modern philosophies and modernity and whatnot, we are forced to, at least a common Muslim, to have a basic understanding of these ulum. Okay, so and this methodology was practiced by some great scholars, yani explaining the kulliyat, explaining the higher principles, the overall structure, the universal structure of this religion. For example, we can quote some examples. We have the great Imam Ash-Shafi'i. He wrote a risala, which is about understanding higher principles of law. We have Imam Ash-Shatibi, who wrote about higher principles in law, in language, Arabic language, and also in understanding Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, higher principles. We have, for example, a great scholar from subcontinent, Imam Waliullah ad-Dahlawi. Have I right? Ad-Dahlawi here. Dahlawi. Shah Waliullah ad-Dahlawi, a great man. His book Hujjatullah al-Baligha is one of the masterpieces. And it's also about understanding the structure, higher principles of our religion. So there are many scholars in our history who focused on these, who focused on understanding the higher principles, the structure of this religion, or we can say in understanding worldview of Islam. Maybe in a particular area like law, or some books are more comprehensive, like Hujjatullah al-Baligha. It talks about political system, social system, law, ethics. It's more comprehensive. Okay, but it was all about worldview. We will be engaging in same, and inshallah I will try to use an easy language. I will not say simple language, because simplification is a wrong methodology. Profound idea should not be simplified. Simplification or reductionism are problems in thought which lead to destruction of a civilization. So I will try to explain in an easy language so that we can grasp. Okay, now let's go to the second topic, which is breaking down the title. In this course, inshallah, we will engage in understanding Islamic worldview. Let's take worldview first, and then we go back to Islamic. What is a worldview? What is a worldview? There are many texts written by Western scholars about worldview. I will recommend it, inshallah, later on. We don't want to mention the names of books, and it will waste our time. We have to understand the crux. There are texts written by Christian scholars, written by scientists about understanding the worldview. I have tried to engage with some of these texts, read it, in order to understand what the West means by worldview. I will mention some claims here, or some points, which will explain this word, and also how we differ from the West, how Islam and Islamic civilization differs with them, even at the core, at the basics. So the first word here is world, worldview. World and view, these are two words. If we connect them, worldview means understanding higher questions of life, or having a conceptual framework of reference by which we interpret our life. We interpret this world. So we can say, and if we say this in one word, worldview refers to existential questions. Questions of existence, existential questions. What are these questions? The basic questions as human beings, those who are thinking, and some human beings have reduced themselves to animals, even beyond an animal structure. They are not thinking anymore. What differentiates a human being from animals is thought, aql. We are human beings because we think. Otherwise, there are many common traits and features between us and animals. So we think, that's why we are human beings. These are the existential questions, the primary questions we ask ourselves. Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? Is there an afterlife? Who created this world? What is good and what is evil? How should I be behaving in this world? How can I change this world into a better place? These are some existential questions. One of the Western authors, or this book on worldview, I will share it with you later on. It has been compiled by multiple authors. They are all experts and scientists in their field, and they are more concerned about constructing a scientific worldview. We'll come to that. But they have mentioned 7 components of a worldview, or 7 questions. I will read it here, and by that we can understand the meaning of worldview. Number 1, what is the nature of our world? How is it structured, and how does it function? Number 2, why is our world the way it is and not different? Why are we the way we are and not different? What kind of global explanatory principles can we put forward in answering this? Number 3, why do we feel the way we feel in this world, and how we access global reality and the role of our species in it? Number 4, how are we to act and to create in this world? How, in what different ways can we influence the world and transform it according to our worldview? What are the general principles by which we should organize our actions? Number 5, what future is open to us and our species in the world? By what criteria are we to select these possible futures? Number 6, how are we to construct our image of this world in such a way that we can come up with answers to number 1, number 2, and number 3, which we mentioned. And the last, number 7, what are some of the partial answers that we can propose to these questions? Yani, these are the main 7 components of a worldview, or the existential questions which we must be asking ourselves as thinking human beings, not only Muslims, because every human being has a worldview. A parallel word which we can use for this term, worldview, in Arabic terminology, which is more profound, is aqidah. Aqidah, which unfortunately has been reduced to understanding some matters of theology. Aqidah. What is your aqidah? Every human being has an aqidah. The word aqidah comes from uqda, which means a knot. Knot in the heart. Every human being ties himself to some basic ideas. There are different types of worldviews, and if you just Google this word, you will even find charts and diagrams about different types of worldviews. Theistic worldviews, atheistic worldviews, so on and so forth, ideologies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 148, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلِكُلٍّ وِجْهَةٌ هُوَ مُوَلِّيهَا فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يَأْتِ بِكُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. For every religious following is a direction towards which it faces. Wijha. So for every human being, there is a wijha. Allah calls it wijha. Direction. We can say it refers to worldview. Here we are not talking about which worldview is correct and which is wrong and corrupted. We're not talking about that. We are saying that every human being has a worldview. And this worldview determines his actions in the world. How he will live, how he views this universe, what will he do, his ethics, his morality, his actions, his priorities in life are all determined by this worldview. Okay, so worldview refers to the existential questions, not question, but questions which we ask. For example, imagine you're here in front of me listening to this session, and suddenly there is a blackout and you find yourself in a train, the most comfortable train you have ever seen, and in that you're served with the best food of your life. So you're enjoying your time, you're eating the best food, the temperature is best, the journey is full of quality, and you're enjoying your life. But this quality of life in that train, the food, the service, the comfort in the train, will it grant you tranquility? No, it will not grant you tranquility. It will not answer your basic existential questions. Because once you are there and you're eating your food, enjoying the best food of your life, and from the window you have the best scenery, you will still ask yourself, why am I here? I was in the class. And where is this train heading to? Where are we going? Why am I here? If I am here now, what am I supposed to do? How can I add meaning to my presence in the train? These are all basic questions. If you're not asking these questions and you are in the train, that means you have lost your thinking capability as a human being. This is the meaning of existential questions. And the second point which we said here is every human being has an aqidah. Even atheists, those who reject religion and God, they don't believe, they have aqidah. And they organize their life according to the aqidah. Okay, even atheists. Because when you don't have a principle, a foundation to stand on, your behavior will be chaotic. But even atheists, they have tried to And we'll come to that. They have tried to search for this basic foundation or principle by which they can organize and implement their worldview. Okay, so this is more about the view. The world here, this word, world, is problematic according to the Islamic understanding, because world is what is perceived by 5 senses, sensory perception, the world which we see, world made of matter. In Islam, we have a better word, wujud, reality, because we believe in an unseen world. We believe in this world, of course, it exists, the universe, and there is a world beyond this, the reality beyond this world, which is unseen. So world, this term does not justify. But as we said, we have used this term because it's prevalent in our times. It will make understanding easier. So the word which is better is wujud. And wujud, there is problem with translations also. And you must know our scholars emphasizing on learning Arabic, connecting with Arabic. One of the reasons of our decline is disconnecting from the language of our Deen. This is true. This is true. Maybe they are not able to explain the connotations, but this is true if you understand it at a higher level. Even see this basic terminology. It loses its meaning and connotations when we translate it. So wujud becomes reality if we translate wujud or world or waqi', reality. It has this meaning of real, something which is real, right? It does not do justice with the word wujud. Okay, so world or wujud is not waqi' for us, reality. Waqi' is reality. It is, we can say wujud, it's haqiqah, or reality is haqiqah in our terminology. It's not waqi'. Waqi' is happening, something which happens in space and time. We are talking about a realm which is beyond space and time, unseen. So there is no wonder that Islam focuses on belief in unseen as the foundation of our religion. In the beginning of the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, to base our worldview on strong foundations. So world is not a correct word, wujud. Okay, and wujud comprises of Allah himself. Allah has wujud, the God which we believe in. This universe has wujud, and there are other realms of wujud beyond this universe from unseen, like angels, jinns, and so on and so forth. Okay, and this is also helpful in understanding epistemology. We don't reduce our epistemology knowledge, sources of knowledge, to only what is perceived by senses. We have a broad epistemology. Inshallah, we will come to that. So this is understanding the term world. Okay, so worldview is a conceptual framework of reference in interpreting the universe or wujud. We can say interpreting wujud, interpreting reality, whether it's the reality which is perceived by 5 senses or sensory perception or the other sources, or it is beyond that. Okay, so if we, and this definition, conceptual framework of reference for interpreting the world, this is used by Western scholars also. But if we use, or if we coin an Islamic definition of worldview, we can say Islamic worldview is the vision of reality and truth that appears before our minds, eye, revealing what existence is all about. And if we summarize this in one sentence, we can say, if we write in Arabic here, it is ru'yatul Islami lil wujud. Ru'yatu al-Islam, the view of Islam for the reality, the vision of reality and truth that appears before our mind's eye. So aql is involved. There are some realities which will be understood by aql. You cannot see them, which that appears before our mind's eye, revealing that what existence is all about. Ru'ya, not nadra. So if we translate it in Arabic, it's nadra. And this is how some scholars translate the term view, nazra. And nazra also is confined to space and time, nadra, seeing. It's ru'ya. Ru'ya involves the mind's eye also, aql. Okay. So this is the basic meaning of worldview. And the word or the term or the area of knowledge where we discuss these questions is aqidah. And inshallah, in the next sessions, we will, when we talk about the components of the worldview or the answers to these questions, the subjects which you saw on the poster are the answers to these questions. Ontology, theology, epistemology, these are different areas of knowledge which are basically answers to these questions. Okay, so for example, we have ontology, which talks about wujud, existence of this universe. Does God exist? If he exists, what are his characteristics, so on and so forth. Theology talks about who is God. Now we have understood that God exists. Who is this God? What are his attributes? Is he disconnected from the universe after creating it, or he's engaged in space and time in history? Epistemology is about knowledge. What is knowledge? Is knowledge possible? Can we acquire knowledge? Anthropology is understanding the human being. And in some areas, we are not taking it as a subject. We are only using the term. Anthropology is a field of knowledge. We are not going into that. We're only taking the term because it deals with understanding human being, the nature of human being. We will engage in that. Teleology is purpose, ethics. If now we are here, okay, we are here. How should we organize our actions? What is good and what is evil? Ethics. Morality, ethics. Law, politics, system. Aesthetics is art. So on and so forth. Yani, these areas basically are the answers to these questions. They are called components of the worldview. Now we have here a very important question about worldview. As we said, worldview is not specific to Muslims. Every human being has a worldview. Does West have a worldview? West, when we use this term West, in the meaning of civilization, a system which has philosophies, ideologies, concepts applied in reality. West is not a religion, because religion has a worldview. This is with consensus. Everyone believes in that. But does West have a worldview? No, West does not have a worldview. This is a very important point. And this is the crux summary of today's session. Why? Why doesn't West have a worldview? In order to understand that, we have to understand the nature of Western civilization. How do we define Western civilization? Now we see the climax, almost the climax of the Western civilization in the systems around us, in economics, the political theories, the capitalism, liberal democracy, nation state, ethics, and whatnot, in all areas. And it's implemented, it's influencing us. Does West have a worldview? It does not. Because West is not a monolithic system. It is not like religion, which has a foundation, a founder, one, monolithic means one, and it is well connected or consistent. No. how do we define Western civilization? This is a topic in itself, and this is connected with philosophy. We'll not go into that, but I will give you a beautiful definition coined by a great mind of our times, a great philosophical mind, Professor Naqib al-Attas, a Malaysian philosopher. And unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, the saying of Imam al-Mawardi, when we don't have authority, even ilham becomes ilhad, as Allama Iqbal said. All best minds are wasted. Some of you may not have even heard about him. He has written some quality works in understanding, in explaining worldview and in explaining Muslim philosophy. He says, and this is one of the best definitions I have ever read about Western civilization. He says, the civilization that has evolved, listen to this carefully, the civilization that has evolved out of the historic fusion of cultures. Fusion. So it's not monolithic, it's not consistent, it's not like Islam. The Islamic civilization may be influenced in history by different cultures, but the origin, the foundation is in the Wahy. It is in the practice of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. So this oneness, consistency is there. It lacks in Western civilization. The civilization that has evolved out of the historic fusion of cultures, philosophies, values, and aspirations. Number one is fusion. Number one, the terms to understand and to remember, fusion. So it will always lack consistency and oneness. Number two is that this fusion is not fusion of philosophies, fusion of foundations, or fusion of thinking patterns. This is fusion of different things. And this is a salad of different things. If it was fusion of philosophies, it would show some consistency to some extent, because philosophies, but it's cultures, philosophies, values, aspirations also of ancient Greece. Now, if this salad was from one place, it would still be somewhat consistent, but it's not from one historical period. So this fusion of cultures, philosophies, values, and aspirations of ancient Greece and Rome, their amalgamation, the second word is amalgamation. So fusion of ancient Greece and Rome. Amalgamation, their amalgamation, mixture with Judaism and Christianity, and their further development and formation by the late Latin, Germanic, Celtic, and Nordic peoples. And these are peoples and cultures which flourished in Western antiquity and historical periods. These are European peoples, Latin, Germanic, Celtic, and Nordic peoples, their culture, their aspirations, their thoughts. So number three is further development, the fusion of cultures, philosophies, values, and aspirations of ancient Greece and Rome. Number one. Number two, amalgamation, mixture. There is difference between fusion and mixture, amalgamation. We will not go into that. Number two, amalgamation with Judaism and Christianity. Number three, further development and formation by the Latin, Germanic, Celtic, and Nordic peoples. Now, this is why West cannot be a worldview. For this reason, any book you will read, any serious work of a Western scholar, scientist, philosopher about worldview talks about constructing worldview, because they don't have. And this lack of unity, and consistency has led to destruction in the modern times. And now from this we understand lack of unity, no uniformity. It has led to if we use one term, fragmentation. Fragmentation. Division. So imagine a worldview is like a house where we have to focus on all aspects, maybe some more foundation, we have to make it strong. And then we construct the walls, we have to think about the roof, interior designing, and we have to focus on all aspects at the same time, right? But the Western civilization, at least in the modern times, it focused on only one room of the house, which is empirical sciences. We will come to that. And this focus or this exaggeration in focus on this one room has led destruction to the other rooms and even the foundation of the house. This is what we called fragmentation. Okay, fragmentation and the idea of specialization. So due to the turbulent processes of modernization, which is based on this disunity of the Western civilization, it has led to fragmentation and specialization. For this reason, they talk about worldview construction. So they don't have, they want to construct a worldview, particularly in the science. Okay, so any work you will read, you will see that they talk about worldview construction. For this reason, the Western civilization, the West has historical periods, even in thought. Forget about what we read in history, this age and that age. We are talking about intellectual history. We have the classical period, we have the antiquity, we have the pre-Socrates, then we have post-Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, then we have the Hellenist period. So these are different historical periods in thought. Some ideas were rejected completely, some were transformed, developed, this and that, patchwork, you can call it patchwork. We don't have historical periods in this sense, intellectual historical periods in Muslim thought. Our worldview is more consistent, more unified, more comprehensive. That's why they talk about, so in every age, they are either rejecting, they're doing patchwork, and now a time has come when they are talking about the construction of worldview. So having a worldview which is consistent, it may have lost its manifestation because of many reasons, like we Muslims have, but the worldview is there. Okay, you can imagine it like a cooking exercise. You have the best vegetables at your disposal, you have the best ingredients, but you may not have the cook who turns this raw material into something beneficial. But imagine a person who does not have these raw materials at disposal, or he has chaotic scheme of ingredients. It will lead to chaos. Okay, so that's why they talk about, remember these words, they talk about worldview construction. Now, so inshallah, I think this will suffice for today's session. We will talk about the Islamic perspective, or explaining this term in the theme Islamic worldview, inshallah, in the next session. Yeah, the last point which I wanted to make here is, as we said, West, the concern of the West is to construct a worldview, one foundation, one theory, which explains all the aspects of the Western civilization, which is not there. They are working on it, construction. Why? What is the concern? They say, and I'm quoting a very important book about the Western worldview. Inshallah, I will share the title later on. The author says, if philosophy does not answer those questions, and we have to use philosophy, Western philosophy and thought, to answer these questions. If philosophy does not answer those questions, or we have to involve philosophy in empirical sciences like physics, biology. We have to involve philosophy. If philosophy does not answer those questions, other realms of our culture will take advantage of the situation. So other realms of our culture means religions, and they don't want religion to take advantage. They don't want other systems to take advantage, because in those systems, worldview is more consistent and unified and uniform. Okay, so he says this should be the concern. We have to construct a worldview. Okay, and in that they have done some homework also. We will refer to that in the next session, inshallah. I think we will wrap up the introduction to Islamic worldview in 2 sessions. Today was the first. In the next session, we will wrap up the introduction. And after that, we will engage in understanding the components. We will take one theme in one session. For example, epistemology, theory of knowledge, understanding knowledge, in one session. And our focus, as we said, will be understanding Islamic perspective with a little bit of comparison with the Western ideology. Khair, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding and to help us achieve what we are yearning for, the revival of the ummah intellectually. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us best of dunya and akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us ikhlas, sincerity in ilm and amal. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his beautiful names and exalted attributes to cure our sick and to forgive all our dead.